Don't come to my house or else I'll suck your dick, blood. I'll suck your blood.
Welcome back, my little ice cubes, to the second episode of In the Kitchen, starring Dracula and unreasonably attractive man. But before any of that, I have a very quick short message for our beloved Behavior Interactive.
Behavior, release the Netflix skins, and my life is yours.
Anyway, obviously what we do within the kitchen, if you are unfamiliar, is we break down the perks, the killer, the power, all kind of facets, whether it's some perk buffs if they actually matter. And I just kind of sit here and yap for about 10 minutes. So, the first focus and the elephant in the room that we have to address is Dracula.
What are you talking about? Okay, fine, my ex and I were getting back together.
Oh, no, you gotta be...
Many people ask what kind of builds you're gonna run with Dracula's perks, and don't worry, I've got you, okay? So what we do with Dracula is we have our little man right here. We grab him by his luscious locks, fold it into a ponytail, and fucking slingshot him into the trash. Why did the last two chapters have chest perks and then we have a killer perk that blocks chests? Like, why are we bullying baby Laura's and baby Belmonts? I have never seen such uninspired and boring perks on a killer, I'm not gonna lie. And we've had Skull Merchant before. So instead of just leaving him in the Sneeko chair for the entire video, I'm actually gonna talk about his power, because as lame as his perks are, his power is actually quite unique and complex. Stop saying it's like a combination of Wesker and Spirit. It's unique and it's cool. You get to become an emo wolf boy. Don't understand. Dracula has 3 forms, and you definitely know that because you watch Oddstarva like he's the Pope. You have his regular I'll suck your dick mode, you have his bat mode, and his wolf mode. His normal mode, you just shoot a bunch of fire pillars like Pyramid Head, but it has a really weird interaction with the environment. It kind of only hits people over structures that are shorter than the survivor themselves, which I'm sure will lead to a bunch of Dracula montages where it's like, holy shit, I shot a line forward. Like those xenomorph tail montage videos. You have his bat mode, which is primarily just used for moving around the map and has this kind of like, this weird facet to it where you can't see survivors and stuff. Like, I'm sure the undetectable is really useful, but I'm pretty sure they'll see the bat the size of the average pit bull flying at them half the time. But it is an actual really good movement ability. Unlike the wolf. The wolf has 3 different things to him. First, he has this kind of base kit Oni kind of thing where survivors will just drop orbs that give you haste. He has a sound-based ability where if you do a loud noise, which is basically just a vault, in a certain radius, he will get Killer Instinct. And finally, he has a dash, which functions like Wesker without the kinky choking. Unfortunately, all 3 of these are extremely underwhelming, not to mention that the wolf form is slower than his base kit speed. Which, yes, I get it, he's supposed to have this double dash, which is very lethal, but even that is kind of underwhelming, even when you consider the haste. So, I think all of his forms, besides his wolf form, are actually pretty good as they are, and should probably stay the way they are in the PTB. I'm not sure how they feel, maybe they feel a bit sloppy, and I'm sure they'll do some touch-ups here and there, unless they just want to, go absolute cinema Sakuna image and just not buff anything. But the wolf, oh my god, they need to buff the wolf. The first thing is the adrenaline orbs are pretty much useless, like they barely do anything. Like, the small speed boost you get is pretty much ignorable throughout the entire game. And I'd say that this needs both a duration and a speed buff, but probably just duration. His noise thing, I mean, can we put Killer Instinct in the trash already? Like, if you have the option to do aura reading, you might as well just always have it, because Killer Instinct is not some god-given ability like Behavior seems to think it is. So honestly, I'd replace it with aura reading and maybe extend the distance it can activate by a little bit. Because Imoliers does the same thing with vaults. Why do we have to Old Yeller the wolf? And then, of course, the double dash. It's not bad. I actually quite like how it works, but the main thing is that I feel like you just don't make a lot of distance when you use it.
Oh, it happens a bit too quickly.
You use it and it's just like 2 very pathetic limps, and sure, it can break pallets, which is really cool, and it does actually catch a lot of survivors off guard, but I feel like as an entire kit, the wolf is just far too weak. So I'd say keep Mr. Suck Your Dick the way he is. The bats are perfect, I love those little guys. I expect a plushie within the next 2 months. And the wolf needs some real overhauling if they want this killer to actually perform. Alright, enough about this tall, neck-smooching boy kisser. Let's get on to handsome Squidward. Belmont, I can actually talk about the perks because the perks are genuinely interesting, not just Pentimento buff number 5. So his first perk, and probably my favorite perk, which is kind of like a hot take, is Eyes of Belmont. I don't actually care about Exhalation, shut up. So Eyes of Belmont is a very simple perk, and everybody was saying, oh my god, it's like Lethal Pursuer. It is, but it's not the perk that shows the killer's aura at the start of the match, to disappoint you a little bit. What it does instead is it reveals the killer's aura every single time a gen is completed for 2 seconds, and then it also extends all other aura reading by about 3 seconds. This is actually pretty swagger souls when you consider that we have a large array of perks that have just never seen the light of day because of how useless they can be. But the first one I want to bring to everyone's attention is Troubleshooter, because oh boy, I don't know if you guys watched the first video, but I have a little thing for Chemical Trap, and these 2 perks play very nicely together. So let me lay the first build on you. First of all, we have to equip our Eyes of Belmont and our Troubleshooter, and then the next 2 perks may shock you. Chemical Trap and Finesse, baby. So let me lay out the game plan for you, okay? So the first thing you do is you drop the pallet, which is like, oh no, I'm pre-dropping, okay? We're comp dropping pallets. It's 2024. Let's stop crying. You comp drop the pallet, you get the aura reading from Troubleshooter, and then Eyes of Belmont extends it. This makes it pretty much impossible to mind game you. So your next thing will be carefully at some random point, either when you drop the pallet or after, plopping down the Chemical Trap and then playing Finesse. Now, if you're injured, it really doesn't matter all that much. Finesse kind of just guarantees that you can't get mind gamed. But Troubleshooter's aura reading extended by Eyes of Belmont makes it super hard for the killer to actually mind game you on that pallet, so half the time you'll just win the mind game regardless. And then even throughout the match, you'll benefit from Troubleshooter's extra second ability of revealing the most progressed gen, and Eyes of Belmont still giving you aura reading when the gen is completed, which actually can happen mid-chase. So depending on the stubborn tsundere relationship the killer has with Chemical Trap, they might just never kick the pallet and just accuse you of cheating. The next one from Eyes of Belmont is gonna get me accused of stealing Mish's ideas from TikTok. She's a cool creator, and she is constantly glazing and using Object of Obsession without DS for some reason. Why would you run Object of Obsession without DS? Either way, Eyes of Belmont can actually make this perk 20 times stronger because the base duration is pretty much non-existent, but it can actually become a quite competent looping perk when you combine these 2 perks. So, I said the word perk 3 times. So we're going to use the perks, Eyes of Belmont, Object of Obsession, and DS. The 4th perk can kind of be up to you. You can lean more into the aura reading and bring Alert and Troubleshooter, or you can try to help yourself with Chase a bit more and just bring Finesse or Dead Hard. It's truly up to you. It's kind of like a Build-A-Bear kind of build. But the constant aura reading kind of guarantees that you are never going to get mind gamed and never be caught, and then you can call yourself a pro while you basically have wall hacks on the killer. Alright, we're moving away from Eyes of Belmont, but it's so funny. I love that perk. It's so cool. We're going to move on to Exhalation. Exhalation is basically stun killer equal build to last, but it makes me not fall asleep because it actually upgrades your item when you do so and recovers it by 25%. Anyway, I do feel like the strength of this perk kind of comes with replenishing items to an almost cheater-worthy level with medkits and flashlights. So that's kind of what the builds are going to play around. The first one is going to be more revolving around the flashlight, where we have Blast Mine, Champion of Light, Exhalation, and Parental Guidance. And that kind of just makes it that any stun you get throughout the game will proc Exhalation. The next one is kind of more revolving around Chase and actually benefits you more for bringing a medkit. You have Smash Hit, Exhalation, Finesse, and then, I don't know, Windows or... And this kind of makes it so any stun you get in Chase will replenish your medkit, and then if the killer leaves you, you can just recharge your Finesse on a basically infinite loop. This may or may not finally make the green key useful, because technically it's an unupgraded version of the key. So I'm not sure, that might be how it works, it might not, it might be stupid, it might be boring, but we don't really know in this game of Dead by Daylight. This truly is our DVD. Now, let's finally move on to the last perk. The moment of glory. This will be its moment of glory. It's shit. It's not good enough. The conditions to actually activate this perk are far too niche and take far too long to set up and are genuinely way too inconsistent in actual serious games. that despite it being one of the coolest perks I think that have ever been introduced into this game, it's completely mediocre. So honestly, I'd recommend they change it to being like if you take 2 protection hits or if you take 1 protection hit to make Metal of Man actually useful again, this perk will activate, and then, you know, this perk can actually see some use. But if it's just rummaging chests, then yeah, I don't really see this perk being used at all. But to end on a high note, the castle is really cool.